What is up, everyone? JDTCG here, back with another video. Today we're going to do a commentary on two games that I played with Mega Absol EX Toolbox. This innovative deck was created by Pokemon player Todd Reklev. He is a 6-time international champion, and in my personal opinion, I feel like he's the best player in the modern competitive TCG era. The two games we're going to commentate on are Absol versus an Ogerpon box, and then an End Zoroark deck. So let's get straight into the first one. After winning the coin flip, I decided to go second because I really didn't know what my opponent was going to play, and honestly, the deck prefers to go second so that you can use that first turn Arven for Precious Trolley and then TM Turbo Energize. After some thinking, my opponent decides to play an Ultra Ball, searching his deck for a Fan Rotom in order to grab one Hoot, Ditto, and a Noctowl. After benching the Ditto and the Hoot, he uses Latias's free retreat to push Ditto into the active and then use Transformative Start to grab a Wellspring Ogerpon EX from deck, attaching a Grass and passing the turn over to me. Despite my trash hand, I top decked the Nest Ball, searching out a Tatsugiri from my deck, and then I used the free retreat from a Yveltal to switch into the active and use the ability to attract customers to see 6 cards, looking for a crucial supporter that I needed, and I managed to get a Lily's Determination to see a fresh 8 after a shuffle. After seeing the fresh 8 from Lily's Determination, I played a Nest Ball, grabbing a Petron EX from my deck, and then looking at my hand, I'm like, alright, I can't get off the TM Turbo Energize this turn, so I need a Petron, my benched Mega Absol EX to the active with an energy, and I just passed the turn over to my opponent. Right after I passed my turn to the opponent, he then plays the Noctowl from his hand to Jewel Seek for a Nest Ball and Boss's Orders. He then plays the Nest Ball to go into his deck to search out one more Hoot and place it onto his bench. And then to my surprise, he attaches an energy, a sparkling crystal, bosses up my Tatsugiri, and then uses Torrential Pump, knocking out my Tatsugiri and my Yveltal. Back onto my turn, after benching a Munkidori, I Earthen Vessel away a Boss's Orders to attach one Dark to my Munkidori. I then Munkidori the damage over to the Wellspring Ogerpon to set it up for a Claw of Darkness KO. I then play an Energy Switch, moving the Darkness Energy attached to my Munkidori onto my Mega Absol EX. And then, with nothing else in my hand, I decide to play Lily's Determination, seeing another fresh 8 cards. However, despite the fresh 8, there was nothing in my hand, so I had to pass the turn over to my opponent. The other player then Ultra Balls away a Terapagos and a Buddy Puff in his search deck for one more Noctowl. And after evolving the Hoot into the Noctowl, he grabs a Nest Ball and a Crispin. He then plays the Nest Ball to grab a Teomask Ogerpon from inside of his deck, and then he plays the Crispin to attach a Steel Energy and a Grass Energy onto his Teomask Ogerpon. And then he uses Torrential Pump again, hitting 100 onto my Mega Absol and then 120 onto my benched Munkidori. Back into my turn, I immediately play a Lively Stadium just to buff up the health of both of my big basics just a little more. I then played a Night Stretcher, grabbing my Munkidori back from the grave. I then countercatcher up the Teomask Ogerpon on the bench, and then I play an Iono, hopefully resetting my hand to something a little more playable and freshening up the opponent's hand just down to 3 cards. In the new hand, I attach a Bravery Charm to my Absol, and then I bench a Pheasantipede to see 3 more cards, hopefully digging out the energy I need to take an attack this turn. For reasons that I don't even know, after attaching a Darkness Energy to my Absol, I countercatcher up the Wellspring that I just sent to the bench. I just assumed that I want to get the KO here because I wasted 2 CC, so then I knock out for 200 damage, and then I asked him to see the hand, and then I discard his Noctowl, preventing any more jewels to be seeked. And then after pushing the Latias up to the active, he top decks a Mew, bosses up my Pheasantipede EX sitting on the bench, and then restarts to see 3 more cards. And then in those 3 cards, he gets an energy. He attaches that one energy to his Mew, and then retreats into a Fan Rotom, passing the turn back over to me. Going back into my turn, I bench down a Mega Kangaskhan EX from my deck, use Subjugating Chains to push the Absol back into the active, and then I penny it just to put it back into hand and use the Mega Kangaskhan's Run Errands ability to draw 2 more cards. After benching the Mega Absol once more, I attach a Darkness Energy and a TM Turbo Energize to grab 2 Darkness Energies from my deck and attach them back to the Mega Absol. And while I was attaching the energy, my opponent takes his turn, bumping my Stadium with the Gravity Mountain, restarting with Mew, and then passes it over because his hand is absolutely dead. So then, on my turn, I draw for turn, and then I draw 2 more cards off of the Run Errand ability from the Mega Kangaskhan. After attaching a Bravery Charm onto my Mega Absol EX on the bench, I play an Arven to search out my deck for a Pokegear and another Bravery Charm. I then attach one more Dark Energy from my hand onto my Mega Absol EX, and then use Petron's Subjugating Chains to push it back to the active, poisoning it. After knocking out his Fram Rotom for one more prize, I look at his hand. He has Bear, Pikachu EX, and an Energy Switch. I decide to get rid of the Energy Switch so that he can't get a knockout on my Mega Absol next turn by attaching one Grass Energy to his Teal Mask and then moving it over to his Mew and then attaching for turn onto his Mew. After benching the Pikachu and using Mew's restart ability, he just pushes up a Noctowl and passes the turn over to me. I have completely destroyed his hand with that Iono and Claw of Darkness attacks. Bench the Latias to push the Kangaskhan into the active to draw 2 more cards. And then luckily, in those 2 cards was the boss's orders to bring up the Pikachu that was on his bench. I then attach a Darkness Energy to my Munkidori, moving the damage over from my Absol to the Pikachu, subjugating Chains it to the active to get it in range for a knockout. After taking the knockout on the active Pikachu EX, he shows me his hand where there's a Blood Moon Ursaluna EX, Night Stretcher, and a Hoo-Hoo, and I discard his Blood Moon just so that he doesn't have an attacker next turn despite having the Night Stretcher in hand. The whole idea with discarding that Blood Moon was to make it so he needed to waste a Night Stretcher on that and not anything like an energy. After pushing the Mew EX to the active, he then plays the Night Stretcher that was in his hand to get the Bear from the discard pile. After using Mew's restart and using Teal Mask's ability, he just has to force up the Bear because his hand is once again dead, so then he hits my active for 240 damage. After knowing I had game in hand, I use my first Munkidori's ability to move 3 damage counters onto the Blood Moon. I then play a Penny, bringing my Kangaskhan back into my hand, benching another Munkidori using Adrenabrain to finish off that Blood Moon Ursaluna with the Terminal Period attack with Mega Absol EX. After this great game, let's go into the next one. Winning the coin flip and making my opponent go first, all he does is bench a Petron EX and pass the turn to me, and luckily I have turn 1 Arven, searching out a Precious Trolley and a TM Turbo Energize. I then play the Precious Trolley in order to bench down a Petron, Latias, Tatsugiri, Munkidori, and a Kangaskhan EX. Using the Latias' free retreat, I push the Munkidori into the active, attaching a Dark Energy and TM Turbo Energize to move 2 Dark Energy from deck onto my Mega Absol EX on the bench. After my opponent drew for turn, he plays a Nest Ball, searching his deck for an Okidogi EX. Even though I knew he was playing Zoroark, I never expected to see this dog in his deck. He then plays a Lily's Determination as supported for turn to refresh his hand. After attaching for turn to his Okidogi EX, he plays an Artisan, searching his deck for an Enzorura EX. Uses Subjugating Chains to push up the Okidogi EX, using its attack to search up 2 Dark Energies from his deck and attaching it to the Okidogi EX, poisoning it. I then use Latias EX to push the Kangaskhan into the active, draw 2 cards, attach a Bravery Charm to my benched Absol EX, boss up the Petron EX, and then use Subjugating Chains to put the Absol into the active. I then announce Claw of Darkness for the KO, take my first 2 prizes, and then he hands me his hand, and I decide to discard his Iono, stopping him from refreshing his hand and cutting mine down to a smaller size. After pushing back up the Okidogi EX to the active, he evolves his Enzurua into a Zoroark EX, discarding a Toedscruel using the trade ability to draw 2 more cards. Then plays his Artisan, grabbing another Zorua from the deck, benching it. He then plays Cyrano as his supporter for turn, searching his deck for 2 Zoroark EX. He then plays Countercatcher, bringing up the Latias EX that was sitting on the bench and goes for the return KO, taking 2 prize cards. Following that knockout, I pushed up the Tatsugiri using Attract Customers to grab an Iono, and then following that, I use Artisan to grab a Munkidori from my deck and putting it onto my bench. After attaching for turn to the benched Munkidori, I boss up his benched Enzorua, Subjugating Chains up my Absol, move the damage over that was on it previously onto the Enzoroark in the bench, and then I knock out the active, discarding a Super Rod from his hand. After that knockout, he pushes up his Enzoroark EX to the active, and then uses Trade, discarding another one to draw 2 more cards. Then plays Artisan, searching his deck for an Enz Reshiram and benching it. Then benches another Enzorua, attaches to the active, and then plays a Buddy Poffin, searching his deck for 1 more Enzorua. After attaching an Air Balloon to his Enz Reshiram on the bench, he bosses up one of my Munkidori with an energy on it and then knocks it out for 1 prize. Then push up my Mega Kangaskhan EX to draw for turn and then draw 2 more cards off of the Run Aaron ability. I think this ability is ridiculously strong in a deck like this. Then use Munkidori to move damage counters off of my Mega Absol EX on the bench a Munkidori, and then I attach a Darkness Energy to it. Decide to boss his orders up his Enz Reshiram, subjugating Chains the Absol into the active, and then take the knockout. Then decide to discard the Professor Turo scenario, hopefully opening up another win condition at the end of the game using a Yveltal to mill them out of cards at the end of the game. Pushing up the Enzoroark to the active, he uses Trade to discard the Buddy Poffin, drawing 2 more cards. He evolves into another End Zoroark, discarding an Yveltal to draw 2 more cards. The draw potential of End Zoroark is absolutely busted. When I thought he couldn't draw more cards, he evolved into another End Zoroark, discards End Castle to see 2 more cards. This is just giving me flashbacks to the Sun and Moon era. And then, he used Artisan to grab another Munkidori from his deck. And then, the ghost of my win percentage decides to move the camera. After using Energy Switch to move energy from the Okidogi to the monkey, he Turos it away, replaces it with an End Reshiram, counter captures up my Petulant, uses Munkidori to clean up the damage on the End Zoroark to put it onto the Petulant just to make it enough for the knockout. After that wombo combo of a play, I counter capture up his Munkidori, move damage counters on my Absol, bench a Cornerstone, Night Stretcher and Energy, attach to that Cornerstone, and then rip an Iono, hopefully bricking my opponent. Plus in my hand, I just decide to clean up for the knockout, leaving us both at 1 prize each, and I discard his Cyrano in hand. After that knockout, he pushes up the End Zoroark, uses Artisan to grab a Munkidori from deck, and then begins his cycle of using Trade to refresh his hand. But before he starts that cycle, he pow pads a boss back into his deck, giving him another win condition, and then he starts his cycle of using Trade, and then in his hand, I see a secret box. Absolutely terrifying. However, after the final trade, he doesn't have it in hand. He has to Night Stretcher and Energy attached to the Munkidori, and then just pass the turn to me. And despite there being a secret box in his hand, I didn't know that, and luckily I played the Iono, bringing us both down to 1 card, putting that secret box all the way on the bottom. However, with there being nothing in my hand, I just have to pass the turn. He discards a Cyrano using Trade, draw 2 cards. He discards ends PP up with Trade, sees 2 more cards. And finally, he uses Trade, discards an Artisan, drawing 2 more cards, and he has the boss for game. However, despite losing, it was a good game. And that brings us to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed watching these 2 gameplays, and I hope you learned while watching these 2 gameplays. I'm fairly new with the deck as well, and I got some mistakes that I made in these games, definitely. Like that last game, I should have just went full Cornerstone, but you know, we're learning. So if you'd like to learn some more, watch my other videos and watch the upcoming videos by subscribing, liking, and hitting that bell. Peace.